I'm going to start with, I think, a recipe you're going to absolutely love. Pork chops au poivre. I know, sounds fancy. Don't worry, it's easy. Just pork chops in a peppercorn cream sauce. Yummy. And my guy likes pork chops, and I bet yours does too. So this is a great way to keep a sauce, keeps, the pork chops nice and moist. And you're going to love this sauce. All right, sip of coffee, and I better get to work because there's a lot going on here. Jam-packed show today. All right, first thing, pork chops au poivre. Well, au poivre is pepper. So I've got some whole peppercorns, and I'm just going to throw them into a Ziploc bag and crush them up a little bit. I love pepper. I'm a big fan of black pepper. Deb, are you a fan of black pepper?
I use a lot of pepper.
I do too. And whenever I go to a restaurant and I see steak au poivre on the menu, I normally order it. So you could certainly do the same recipe with steak, but we're going to do it with pork chops today. Do something a little different. Pork chops is one of those things that my family's always, every time I make them, they say, why don't we have this more often? So I thought, yeah, that'd be perfect. We'll substitute the steak and do pork chops in this recipe. So I've just got my meat mallet, a rolling pin would work, the back of a heavy frying pan, got my peppercorns into a Ziploc bag, and I'm just going to crush them up a little bit. Make some noise. Oh, it smells good. All right, there we go. So you want them pretty coarsely, real coarse. You could also just buy coarse ground pepper, which we normally, that's something I cook with all the time if you don't want to take the trouble to pound these up. But this is really going to give me a nice peppery crust. And then I've got about a half a teaspoon of salt. So about a tablespoon of the peppercorns and a half a teaspoon of salt. Okay, so I've just got that in a dish. I've got some beautiful pork chops that picked up at Festival. These happen to be the boneless, and these are nice and thick. Any kind of chop is going to work for this, so whatever's in your budget. I tend to like the thicker chops because they stay a little moister, but like I say, sometimes the real thin ones are on sale, and those are going to work great too because we've got that nice sauce, so we really don't need to worry about things drying off too much. So I just am coating both sides with the peppercorns, and then I'm going to dredge them quickly in some flour. That's going to give a little bit of a nice crust. And then I want to get them into a hot skillet. Biggest skillet you have, a few tablespoons of olive oil. I'm going to throw some more pepper in there. Deb, did you grab my pepper? She's just so on top of it, she's cleaning up right after me. Those were big chops. So here's the other way you can do the black pepper. I lost my pepper.
I took it.
You took it? That's okay. We've got more. Okay. Just want to make sure that those chops are all nicely coated, get a nice peppery crust. So into the peppercorns and salt, and then into the skillet. And I really want to hear a nice sizzle to make sure that pan is nice and hot. It could be even hotter, but that'll do. If you don't hear that, pull the pork out of the pan and just wait for that pan to heat up a little bit more. So let me dredge this last. Well, actually, I've got two more to go in the flour. Get them into the hot skillet.
Can you get your... Thank you.
Okay. And one more we've got to go. Deb, we can hear you. You're whispering. I hope you're not talking about me. Okay. There we go. And this last chop into the skillet. Okay, there we go. Deb, have you ever been to France before?
I was once.
Yeah?
It's wonderful.
I was once as well, when I was in high school. And it was a trip of a lifetime. I actually got to go with my high school, well, it was a few dozen high school fellow students, and saved up my money. We did a 3-month-long tour of Europe, and oh wow,
Oh,
Yeah,
wonderful.
it was absolutely wonderful. But I've never been back since, so that was a long, long time ago. I'm just dying to get back there. It's on my, bucket list of things to do, get back there. And Bob has never even been to Europe, so one of these days we're going to get there. But I just remember the food. The food was so
Wonderful food
Mhm.
and flowers.
and flowers and life, and of course the women there, they're so beautiful and with hardly any makeup at all. So it is, if you ever get a chance to visit France, do it. One thing I remember about the food is it's very simple. It's not like 53 ingredients. I remember the best ham and cheese sandwich I've ever had, and it was like the baguette was freshly baked and the ham just really thinly shaved, and the cheese, and that was it. You know what I mean? And very, very
simple, but
Yep.
very, very
Yep,
good.
Yep, that's exactly how I remember it. The best salads, just with light vinaigrette. Oh, does that smell good? I've got some water standing by because it's peppery. That's what you're looking for, a nice brown crust. Okay, well, that's doing its thing. I'm going to get to work on chopping a shallot. A shallot is kind of it looks like garlic almost, except for it's got a red skin instead of a white skin. And it's a real mild form. It's like a mild onion. You don't have to run out and buy a shallot if you don't have one. Just use a couple tablespoons of finely chopped onion. Red onion would be, my onion of choice if you can't find shallots, but yellow onion is going to work good too. We just want a hint of mild onion flavor. So you peel it just like you would an onion or garlic, and then just finely chop it up. To be honest, this is something the chefs use a lot of. Normally, I don't have a shallot in the house, so if I were making this at home, I'd just use onion, and all would be fine. Okay, just want to flip this last chop and get those browning a little bit. I didn't get too much outside of Paris. Pretty much was just right in Paris. So, but Deb, you kind of went all over. You went to the Mediterranean and different areas of
We spent
France.
a lot of time in Italy
In Italy, okay.
and some time in Monaco, so
In
it
Monaco.
was really
Ooh,
nice.
Trip of a lifetime. Sounds wonderful. You've been to where? Ann says where? You've been to Pulaski? I've been there too. And actually they've got some darn good Polish food there and a great Polish bakery. But we're talking about France today, so this is a different country, Ann. But I appreciate that. Okay, so these chops, these are nice and thick, so they're not cooked all the way through by any means. But I've got them nice and brown. And let me tell you, they're peppery. So I just want to remove them to a plate. Cover them with some foil. And I'm going to continue to make a wonderful pan sauce. Just want to get a little bit of that dark. The rest of that is wonderful brown bits. So I'm going to get a little bit of butter in here. I'm just going to pull it off the heat just a little bit. And I'm going to start sauteing my shallot. Thanks. Deb's got my water standing by. Sometimes when you cook with black peppercorns, woo, that pepper goes right up in there. So I'm going to get my shallots in here. Just saute them for a little bit. Cover those chops. We'll get them back in the skillet to completely cook them. In just a bit. I'm going to use my whisk to kind of scrape up all those great brown bits. And I'm going to throw a little bit of brandy in here. You've got a gas cooktop. Be careful. This is going to give the nicest flavor. And that alcohol is going to cook out of there. It's just going to give a great, great flavor. Now I've got some sour cream. If you didn't want to cook with the brandy, you could do a dry white wine. You could also do chicken stock. Oh, does that smell good? So this is going to kind of mellow the pepper a little bit. You're going to have some hint of pepper, but it's not going to be too spicy. Don't worry about it. And I'm using my whisk because I just want to make sure there's no lumps from that sour cream. Okay, my chops are going to go back in here. And I do want them to cook a little bit longer before we take this to the plate. You don't have to cook pork chops like you used to. You don't have to cook them until they're shoe leather. But you do want to make sure that they're cooked through. All right, so I'm just going to let that hang out and do its thing. I'm going to take these to the plate after the commercial. I chop up a little bit of Italian parsley just to throw in there for some color and freshen up the sauce at the end. And we are good to go. Can't get to France, make these pork chops au poivre. Recipes on our website. You can also pick them up, pick up the recipe at any Festival Foods. Coming up, we're just getting this whole vacation to France started. We're going to take you to a local bed and breakfast where if you check into one of the rooms, you'll actually feel like you're waking up in Paris. And later, my stuffed apricot almond French toast and homemade chocolate eclairs. Lots of great French recipes still to come, so don't go anywhere because we'll be right back.